Bill and Hillary Clinton both agreed to testify in the Epstein investigation. But here's the twist. They're demanding public hearings. Comer wanted private video depositions, the kind that he can chop up, leak selectively, and use for campaign ads. The Clintons said, nah, make it public, man. Put it all on camera, let everyone see it. This is a masterclass in political judo. Think about what just happened. Comer wakes up this morning, demands video depositions, private, controlled, behind closed doors by tonight. The Clintons respond, we'll do you one better, make it public. Here's the quote from the Clintons' letter to Comer. Though you have notably never asked the Clintons to appear in an open hearing, we now believe that will best suit our concerns about fairness. Let me read that again for you. You have notably never asked the Clintons to appear in an open hearing. They're calling him out. They're saying if you actually wanted transparency, you would have asked us from the start. You didn't because you wanted to control over the narrative. The dates are set. Hillary Clinton on February 26th, Bill Clinton on February 27th. Public on record, no selective leaks. That's the news. BLUFF gold. Now, let me give you the context on why this is so devastating for Comer. For those who don't know, James Comer is the Republican congressman from Kentucky who chairs the House Oversight Committee. He's basically been running the committee like it's opposition research for the RNC. This is the same guy who spent 2 years promising bombshells on the Biden family. Remember the Biden bribery investigation? He held press conference after press conference, promising the walls were closing in, and then what happened? The FBI informant he relied on, the guy who's supposed to be the star witness, got indicted for lying. The whole thing collapsed, 2 years of investigations, and he had nothing. So what does Comer do? He pivots to Epstein. And look, I want to be very clear about something. I'm all in for investigating Epstein's network. My audience has been asking for this since day one. Epstein Files is the number one request in my comments too. You want the names, you want the accountability, so do I. But here's the thing you need to understand about Comer. He doesn't want a real investigation, he wants the political weapon. How do we know? Because of exactly what the Clintons pointed out. He's never asked for public hearings, he wanted private depositions. Why? Because in a private deposition, he controls what gets released. He can leak the juicy clips to Fox News, he can just cut the context, he can frame the narrative however he wants. Public hearings? I mean, no. He loses all the control. Everyone sees the full exchange, the questions and the answers, no selective editing, no spin. The Clintons are betting that Comer either has to put it up or shut up, and they're calling his bluff in the most public way possible. The Clintons are playing chess while Comer is playing checkers. They've been in politics for 40 years. They've seen every trick in the book. They know exactly what Comer is trying to do. By demanding public hearings, they've put Comer in a trap. He now has two options, and both of them are bad for him. Option A, accept the Clintons' offer, hold public hearings, but here's the problem. If he does that, he has to explain why he's not applying the same standard to everyone else in those Epstein files. And we know there are names in there from both parties. There are names connected to Trump, there are names connected to major Republican donors. Is Comer going to subpoena all of them for public hearings too? Of course not. The option B, reject the offer, but then he looks like a complete hypocrite. The Clintons offered more transparency than he asked for, and he said no. How do you explain that? We wanted to investigate Epstein, but the Clintons were too willing to testify publicly. That makes no sense. Either way, he is exposed. This is why the Clintons' letter is so perfectly crafted. That line, you have notably never asked the Clintons to appear in an open hearing. That's not just a statement. That's a trap they're putting in that to record. Comer never wanted transparency. He wanted control. Now, let me tell you what I actually want to see to happen. I want a real Epstein investigation. I want every name in those files released. I want everyone who was involved held accountable. Democrat, Republican, billionaire, politician, I don't even care. Burn it all down. We all have been asking for this for months, but that's not what Comer is running. He's running a partisan fishing expedition disguised as oversight. He's not interested in the truth, and we all know that. He's interested in headlines that help Republicans and hurt Democrats. The Clintons just exposed that. You want transparency? Let's do it. Full transparency, public hearings, everything on the record. We'll even give you dates. And now we get to watch Commerce squirm. If he actually goes through with public hearings, this could get very interesting. We might actually learn something about it. But my prediction, he's going to find some excuse to change the terms, delay, or reject the offer entirely, because the last thing James Comer wants is a fair, transparent, or a public investigation. Here's why this story matters beyond the political theater. For years people on both sides have been demanding transparency on the Epstein files. This is the one of the rare issues where left and right actually agree. We want to know who was involved and we want accountability. The victims deserve that. The public deserves that. But every time this comes up, it gets weaponized. Democrats use it to attack Republicans, and meanwhile, the actual truth stays buried because neither side wants a real investigation that might expose their own. What the Clintons just did actually genius from a transparency standpoint. They're saying, fine, you want to investigate us? Do it in public. No closed doors, no selective leaks. Let the American people see what is really happening. Now, the question is whether Comer has the guts to apply that same standard across the board. Will he call Trump associates for public testimony? Will he subpoena the Republican donors whose names appear in those files? Will he demand public hearings for everyone, not just people he wants to target? I'm not holding my breath, but at least now we have a clear test. The Clintons set the bar. Public hearings, full transparency. Anyone who refused that bar is telling that you have something to hide, right? There's actually one more thing to point out. Watch how the media covers this over the few next days. Right-wing media is going to spin this as Clintons being desperate or trying to control the narrative. They're going to ignore the fact that Comer specifically asked for private depositions and Clinton said make it public. That framing tells you everything. If the Clintons were scared, they would have fought to keep it private. They would have lawyered up and delayed. Instead, they said bring it on, but do it in front of everyone. That's not a move of someone who's hiding something. That's the move of someone who knows the investigation is a political stunt and wants to expose it. So, mark your calendars to February 26th and 27th for Bill and Hillary. If Comer accepts, we'll be watching. If he backs down, we'll know exactly what this was about from the start. Drop a comment, like the video. Do you think Comer actually will do it or not? Thank you for watching.